at a distance. So thank you for being here with us today. I hope most of you remember I am Teresa with Community Resources for Science, and we have Tracy McManus with us today, who's your colleague here in West Contra Costa, and we are recording the meeting. So she has just started record for those of you who just came into the room and didn't hear that discussion. So we hope that you will be okay with that, and you can make your adjustments as you need in terms of your video cameras, but we'd love to see your friendly faces whenever possible. I believe you're all muted to begin. And then we have Denise Abersold with us, who has been doing teacher professional development with us and was a West Contra Costa classroom teacher and an early science ambassador and advocate within the district. And so she's going to be leading us on some great science learning today. So Denise, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're going to do the screen sharing, and if you could do the first little bit of getting people oriented, I will go ahead and finish making the breakout rooms. Those who just joined us, if you can put your grade level next to your name and your Zoom name, that will help me with making breakout rooms. And if you can type your name and school into the chat, that will help us with keeping attendance. Thanks.
Okay, so we are on the first slide. Let me put it on present. And just make sure everybody can see it, and you can hear me, and you can see it, and everything's okay. Thank you. That's good. I can't see you, but all right, we are here with, let me get off of here. Sorry. This is my first online one. I'm sorry. I'm not so worried about the science. I'm worried about the technology. So
We're all doing that.
All right, so we are activating wonders through engagement in science at a distance. And this is our professional development here. And the next slide, I assume, unless Teresa, you want to say something?
Denise, we are not seeing the full screen of your
let me
sharing.
try that again then.
So you might have to stop sharing and then share again, and to get it to go to present. So
okay, all right. Sorry, thank you. Please give me any advice anybody has so I get it right here. That's what I had, that's it?
That's much better, thank you.
There we go.
All right. Okay, so we are here with Community Resources from Science. And this is who we are. We just kind of did a little introduction already. And you'll have time to introduce yourselves in a little bit. This is what Community Resources for Science does. They have all kinds of things on their website, and I'm assuming most people that are here have already explored this wonderful site. It's a new site this year. I mean, it's been updated, I guess.
And I still have a few of you who have not put your grade name next to your Zoom name. If you can do that, that will be super helpful. And then on the, we will put into the chat, and we will share with you at the end of the day today all of the slides, all of the links for the resources that we're mentioning. The video will be posted later, the lesson plan. So you can really focus on enjoying and participating in the experience, and don't worry too much about trying to copy slides and things like that. We'll share all of that with you.
And if you have questions or comments that aren't, you could put them in the chat as well, and we will save and refer to the chat later. So. Okay, slide 4.
Great.
Here's the children doing science in real life. That's what we all miss, isn't it?
We're struggling with that for sure. And then Tracy, if you want to take a minute and tell that we have 3 slides here, Tracy, if you could talk just really briefly about the resources. The first one is about the ed tech, and the next 2 are about mystery science. And I'll give you a couple minutes to just explain a little bit about resources and support that are available there.
Sure. So some of you might be familiar already with the ed tech Mission Control Bitly. They have weekly updates where they've made this one Google slide image that has lots of clickable links, and they highlight new tips and tricks every week. You might also have joined already the EdTech Google Classroom. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. They have categorized topics that are frequently asked questions that happen in their office hours. You might have a Zoom question or a Seesaw question or something specific to presentations. So I recommend you join that classroom.
So you have to show me. Are we
When you
there?
click that link, the classroom code directions will be there. So for the chat question, when you get the slides, you'll be able to sign up for that Google Classroom. So Mystery Science is the curriculum that we are recommending for distance learning. We've offered variety of curriculum in the past, but unfortunately the hands-on distribution of science materials just isn't happening this year. So we would love for you to make the most of your Mystery Science account. Some portions of the curriculum you don't even need an account for. You could just show mini lesson videos. There's a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to that has the mini lessons. Or if you'd like to use the full curriculum, each grade level has a whole year's worth of grade level specific science. So if you click that WCCUSD science link, it will take you to the home page of our district science, and you'll need to be signed in to the district web page. You can check with the users plus symbol in the upper right to make sure you're logged in. But once you are, then you'll see different curriculum options on our science webpage, and one of them is Mystery Science. So it will lead you through creating an account, and the purpose for us is just to be able to have that useful data that teachers are using the program, that it is in fact something we want to keep purchasing year after year. So we do encourage that you do take the time to register your account, and that way we can see how popular it is.
Okay, sorry, next slide, okay.
And just another brief intro to it. There are links you can share to your Google Classroom and your Seesaw assignments for both the mini lessons and your full-length lessons. They have really easy to copy links for asynchronous work. So it's not something that students have an account for. It's just the teacher has an account, and you show videos and have great discussion questions. So I hope you get to check it out. Thanks.
Today's goals, yeah. Let me get
So before pandemic, we were all working to implement these robust next generation science standards. We were really working on having science shift from being teaching about stuff to having students figure things out and having it really be phenomena centered. What are things that students can really observe in their daily lives? What are things that we can watch and see happen that cause us to wonder what's going on and to ask questions, and things that we could actually explore and do experiments and tap into our existing scientific knowledge and build on that to make meaning and help children begin to build an understanding of their world. And I threw a photo of a sunset because that's certainly something we've all been thinking about over the last month or two, how our skies have been changing very dramatically over time with the wildfires and other things. And so thinking about how we can keep this critical thinking, this active learning going at a distance is really our purpose for being together today. So Denise, next slide. And so our agenda today, we're gonna have a little warm up that gives you a chance to just kind of network and chat with one another about how things are going. And then we're gonna do some science. Denise is gonna walk us through some active learning activities in physical science so that you have some ideas that you can take back and use with your students. You're going to get the chance to ask some questions, share some ideas. You are all the experts in how things are working with your kindergartners or first graders or second graders or TKs in distance learning. So you are the experts. Please share your expertise with one another, and we'll have some planning time. And the goal of this session is that we're going to learn some things and do some things so that when you come back for the November session, you'll have a chance to reflect on how it went and what you were able to do, and then we'll get another lesson that can build on this. And we're focusing on physical science and building on some of that. And so Denise, I think there's one more.
One more share, okay.
And so we're going to go to put you into breakout rooms and give you a Jamboard that will give you an opportunity to share your ideas, and so we'll be able to go back and see them later, but also kind of as a way to record your ideas. And I believe I have the link for the Jamboard that I can put into the chat for you. I just have too many things open here, and I'm going to get it there. So hopefully this link, whoops, did that link work? It does not look like it worked as a link.
You want me to
Can you
try
put,
it or no?
that won't work. That's not,
That won't work there, okay.
yeah, it's on the agenda, but it was not as a link. I had it copied and I copied something else, and so it uncopied the link. All right, here we go. See if you are able to open that link. And if you're able to open that link, that'll be the Jamboard where we're sending you to. Tracy, were you able to make that link work?
Yes, I'm there.
Awesome. So when you get put into your breakout rooms, you're in breakout rooms of 3 or 4, and you should all be, for the most part, in the same grade. There's a few that weren't quite able to match up that way. But this is a chance for you to talk a little bit amongst yourselves and with one another about how things are going. And we're using this kind of physical science references here. So we're asking you to share about your pushes. What are the things that are working? What are the things that you just had to ramp up and discover and they're actually working well for you? And you can use the Jamboard tools to make some sticky notes and share with one another what's working. And then we'd like you to kind of shift gears and share what's the friction. What are some things that are really challenging with distance learning, but particularly thinking about science, but it can encompass anything that you're experiencing. And then finally, we'll give you a few minutes to share out the sparks. What are things that you've discovered, maybe that have surprised you, things that you would like to build on over the course of this year? And since this Jamboard has 10 pages, I would like to ask you to find the page number by navigating along the top of the Jamboard where there are some arrows with the page numbers or the board numbers to find the page that corresponds with your breakout room. You should see a breakout room number at the top of your screen when you're in your breakout room. If for some reason that doesn't work, just talk amongst yourselves, find an empty page, put your names on it, and everybody else can do the same. We're gonna give you about 4 minutes for each of those prompts. So overall, you'll have about 12 minutes, and we'll give you a chance to come back. Before I send you, is there anyone who has a question or is not able to make the link work?
I think you have to update the share mode because it's still coming up as view.
Oh, you're not able to edit it?
Oh,
No.
All right, well, it's shared to anyone with the link. Let me see how I can change that. Anyone with the link can.
Yeah, should be able to edit instead of view.
Yes, there you go.
So we'll have to copy and paste it again in chat.
Okie doke. We tested all these things out, but you know,
every day is different.
this is what we're all experiencing, isn't it? Okay, so
And someone asked, how will I know what breakout room I'm in? When you get the invite, it'll say invitation to join breakout room, 1, 2, 3. So just notice the invitation window when it pops up.
And when you're in your breakout room, depending on your settings, it should also appear on the top of your screen. I'm in breakout room 2. So that should help you find the right room. But you can, you'll be able to talk with your colleagues who are in the room with you. All right, so any questions? Is that working now for everyone? The
It
second week I
works.
pasted in? Okay. I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms then, and we will call you back in about 12 minutes. And Tracy, you could hit pause on record.
Oh, good, yes.
They're all back. They're coming back. Yay. There's always that little moment of uncertainty when you send everybody out to the breakout room. If I just disconnected everybody, are we really going to come back? It's always nice when they come back. Yay. And we're going to just spend a couple of minutes before we go on to our activities. So anybody like to just kind of popcorn out, unmute yourself, and just share out something that came up in your conversation, whether it's the spark, something you've discovered that you want to build on, or something that you've discovered that's working well, or just a consistent theme in the challenges, just anything that stood out in your conversation.
I just want to share with my group. I had amazing second graders teaching staff there, and Chandra, she shared us with a great resource. We can send the material print shop, and we had no idea. So we are, it's good to have that resource at the hand so that the kids can get their materials at hand and can start working. Because believe me, there are a lot of kids who are doing amazing job with the virtual, whiteboard and seesaw and everything. But there are some students who still need to hold those, papers and pencils in the hand to work on. So thank you for Chandra again. I just have to say thank you to you. So because that's a great thing which came up, and I'm really gonna use that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, and Chandra, maybe we'll ask you to send us details if there's something we can include in the follow-up. That would be great.
It was actually really easy. So I just went on the Mystery Science webpage and I downloaded all the PDFs that go with the lessons, and then I had the print shop make the student work. Nice. And so these are going to go home with my kids, and they'll be able to cut out and do the activities along with me. Or if I do an asynchronous lesson, I could pause while they're doing things and walk them through step by step as well. So they're not just tuning out for some of this stuff, because I notice sometimes they're not always paying attention if it's just watching a video.
Great.
That is great, yeah.
Huge. Anybody else? So Chandra, maybe offline you can help us give them the steps of how to do the print shop order, and we'll include that in the follow-up. There's some questions about that. Anybody else have anything that popcorned out that you'd like to popcorn out and share with us that came up in your conversations?
I had something. If you haven't been to the PORTS program on demand, it's amazing. It's free, and they'll have a scientist Zoom from a state park. And next week we're going to Calaveras State Park, and they're going to do a read aloud and do a nature walk. It's free, and it's easy to sign up on their website.
Yeah, that's an amazing program. It's really great.
What was that program called again?
It's called PORTS.
PORTS, P-O-R-T-S?
And it's California State Parks. Great. One more, any last one? Anything that you're discovering about your students that surprised you or that you get to build on? I've heard.
Oh, I was going to say my students are kind of learning presentation skills, because in Seesaw they talk about what they did. So if we did like a little experiment, they presented it And, you know, it's a beginning, but it's something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, me too. I'm just going to add on to what just now Pam, I guess. Yeah, so I just want to add on to that. Yes, it's like a very positive surprises coming from my students as well. You know, this first and second grade, I teach a combo class, and they are adapting so well to this virtual learning, and CISA has been really great. We not only do the science, mystery science lesson, but also do like, you know, social studies too. So we are doing a research project kind of thing on Fridays, choosing a topic, listening to mini lesson, and, you know, talking about it. Sometimes they are recording themselves, you know, explaining their thinking, what they learned from it. And also sometimes I give them, you know, go ahead, go write down a paragraph about it. So they go and sketch and their thoughts, and then illustrate, and it's really going great. So it's like a very positive surprises coming out of the little ones.
Oh,
They're becoming researchers, you know, because they have in their fingertips the whole thing, you know, the web, the amazing web. So, and I'm like, okay, like this, I'm gonna guide them to this, mystery science and port these kind of websites, and they go research. I say, if your family members have any other resources, I don't mind you using them too, as long as you're learning and, you know, showing your work. So CISA has been also a blessing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. And we are going to go through and look at all of those wonderful ideas and thoughts that you shared. And we'll kind of summarize those, and we'll be sharing those out. And also, if there's any things that we can kind of take some actions to help address or alleviate or support, we will be looking at all of that. So we are going to shift gears now. And Denise has some great activities, some active hands-on physical science things that she would like to share with you, things that you could do with your students. So I believe I'm going to share my screen, and Denise, you will be able to take it away in just a minute when I get
Okay.
Sorry, it's not liking to find the screen that I have set up to share here. So let's try again. Oh, yes, it is. It's right here. I even have my reading glasses on, and I still had trouble seeing it. What can I say? All right.
All right, let me just set up my screen the way I want to see it for just a second. I'll be fast. I wanted to see some faces while we're going through this. Okay. All right, so the science lesson that I set up is called, they don't call it physical science for nothing. And this is way early, though. There's some things before that. Can you go back a couple of slides?
Sure. Sorry, it
Okay.
went to the wrong slide. And Tracy, have you begun to recording again?
Yes, when we got back from breakouts.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay. So this is our agenda. We're going to do some work in engaging the student interests, and we're going to act out some vocabulary and pointing to vocabulary and looking around our labs. And then we have 3 activities: move it, light it, and categorize it. And I also want to do some talking about notebooking. Just to begin with, how many people are using some kind of student's notebooks? How am I going to know that? I see one. I know all I can see is hands. I see one hand, no hands. Okay, a few people. That's okay. All right, now we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so they don't call it physical science for nothing. This whole lesson plan, which you have access to, it kind of spans TK through 2nd grade. I was trying to do that. And I don't imagine that anybody will do all of this at one setting with their kids, and some people won't do all of it. It'll be too hard or too easy. But I wanted to just give everybody something to work with. And most of my teaching career, at the end, I taught 4th and 5th grade, and we did something called preview and review. Like, you already had it in 4th grade, now you're reviewing it if you hadn't had it. So, and if you hadn't had it in 4th grade, then you were previewing it, sorry. Anyway, so that's kind of how I've set up the thing. So to begin with, I thought we could get our young scientists to internalize some of the vocabulary they will need if we could make it kind of kinesthetic connections by acting out some of the words. And ideally, I would have us all stand up and do some of these actions, but I don't know if that's going to be, what do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Don't want to do that? Okay, I don't see many people voting, but I don't see a lot. That's okay. So we could just have them act out and say the words like push, pull, roll, bounce. I'm sure you could think of lots of things to do. The kid that I practiced on, my neighbor, he liked collide. That was fun to collide. Fall, rise up. You could stop. You could go. You can use any hand motions. The point is to say the words while you're acting it out. And I'm sure, especially TK and K, that you do a lot of that anyway. Or you might think of other words that have to do with physical science that you would need to act out. I think that's where we're going to go. Could we go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, and I would just say that what we've heard from teachers, and I'm sure some of you, and you can share in the chat if it's been what's worked for you. Some have really liked that idea of letting their little learners get up and act things out.
Yeah,
and others, depending on the group that they've got, find that sometimes gets them off task and it's hard to get them back. And so they've discovered having a small toy, a stuffed animal, that the students can use to act things out while still seated at their computer. So either of those, strategies.
And I hope I got the correct Spanish words. And I know there's other languages, but there's lots of things. I didn't make a card for every movement, but I just wanted to show you that they were there. You could push or pull. I like that guy, but I didn't know how to get rid of presenter media. But rising, falling. The falling activity was really fun with the kid I worked with. So they're out there, but you might have to find your own. Okay, another way to bring in the vocabulary is by pointing at different objects in the room. I've noticed that it can help to focus the kids. And also we're kind of preloading some of the vocabulary they might need for some of the other activities. So if you, in your class, in your Zoom world, you could have the kids point to something in their room that would make lights. Like you could point to the sun out the window, or the lamp, or the overhead lights, or the phone. And I like to whisper its name, so if you had a bunch of kids on and doing it at the same time, they could whisper what they were pointing at, because you probably won't be able to see it. And again, to something large or small, heavy, light, round, rectangular. I see most people have their mute on, but if you would like to whisper something in your room that matches some of these things, you could do that. I don't hear it. It's after class,
Document camera.
Okay, there you go. Can you point to something red? Anybody point to something red and whisper the name? Okay, good. Good. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, this forces in the room. Some of the words we've been using, push, pull, rise, fall, are called forces. And they're what makes things happen in the world. And here's a fun fact. Scientists often work in laboratories. So now your room, whatever room it is your laboratory. So look around your laboratory and see what you can find that might be moved by a force. Can you find something that could be rolled, or pushed, or pulled? You can whisper. Oh, somebody's holding up. Yeah, there's a rolling thing. I can't see everybody at once. I don't like that part, but.
My table, my desk can be pushed.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Again, look around the laboratory. What is it that makes light in your laboratory?
Window.
Good. Oh, a flashlight. Oh, that's going to come in handy. Okay. Something that could rise or fall. Anybody have any ideas?
my own chest while I'm breathing. Possibly, if I can really,
Oh,
yeah.
I like that. It's rising and falling. Yeah, that's good.
Tissue
Yep.
kind of floats.
If my cat came running through here, everything on my desk could fall right now. But let's not go for that. All right, is there something in your laboratory that can't be moved?
The building.
Yeah, the actual, yeah, the building. Anything else?
Walls,
Yeah, the walls can't, they're not going anywhere, hopefully.
floor, yes, floor,
The floor, yeah.
the ceiling too,
Yeah, so the
the whole
actual,
building. Yep. Yeah.
actual room is not going to be moved anywhere. Good. Okay, next, next slide, please. Okay, this is the first activity. It's called Move It. I have to get my bowl of things. For this activity, you will need something that rolls. And I have a few examples of things that rolls. I have things that roll. I have a lemon. I have a tennis ball. Those are pretty common rolling things. I have a can of tuna. And I was thinking that's interesting for the first question. I'll tell you about that when we get there. Toilet paper roll. Even has the word roll in it. A can of tomato paste. I'm sorry, I have to put the dog out. I have her bowl.
So if you put into chat, what do you have that can roll?
Sorry about that. Yeah.
What do you have that can roll? You can type it into the chat. And also, I will take advantage to mention that as Denise has organized the slides and the activities, we've kind of tried to highlight the 5E connections. So the first things that she was doing were the engage, right? Getting kids to think about that phenomenon, that idea that you want them to wonder about. And now these are examples of kind of the explore. Go ahead.
Right. And actually, you could also roll a pen. Some pens, it might be interesting if it had something on it, because then it wouldn't really roll. But whatever the kids come up with, now is the point. They're just going to do some experiments. They're going to try a few different things. So I'm going to just put this down a little bit so you can see in front of me if you want to. Just put your rolling thing in front of you. Make it stop. You start out with it not moving. If you can get it there. All right, so everybody's got something that isn't moving?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first challenge is, can you make it move without touching it? It's probably going to depend on what you did. A good thing to keep in mind too is you might want to make notes. You're going to have to record some of this. Okay, all right, so did anyone, I'll put it back up. I'm just going to start with this one because I thought it would be interesting. If I touch it this way, if I put it up like this, it's easy, but it's still a round thing, but it doesn't roll like that. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting observation. So maybe a kid will get that. I don't know. All right. I want you to take some time to just roll, pick one thing and roll it. And see what you notice. Is it always the same? Is it easy to roll? Is it hard? Would it roll off the table if you weren't careful? Okay, just notice. That's what scientists do. They notice with their eyes what they're observing. Okay, take a couple minutes to do a few different things. Okay, we can go to the next slide, I think. I don't know, you take however long you would like to with your children, but.
Some creative ideas coming through. The people are blowing on it, making a ramp, tilting the table a little bit. So trying different surfaces. So some really good ideas coming through here.
Good, good. And your kids will have that too. Now we're kind of going to switch a little bit to explain and to notebooking. If you don't use science notebooks, which I mean, as soon as Community Resources for Science taught me that about 5 years ago, that was like a big deal for me. I loved it. I really got into it. But if you don't have the notebooks, you can always just have a piece of paper. And scientists always show what they learn so that other people can learn too. They make notes and they draw sketches so they can remember what they see and notice. This way we have a scientific record. We need a record of what we do. And I always had my kids put those 5 things on. If they had a notebook, obviously you don't need your name because your name is on the front of your notebook. But if you just have a piece of paper, you need your name, you need the date, you need the drawing, you need the labels, and you need some ideas. And I should have put ideas / questions because it's part of the investigation. I just realized I didn't do that. So I'd like you to take a couple minutes now, scientist, teacher scientist, to draw something that you did and try to get all 5 of those things on your paper. Well, I don't know if your name matters, but the date, the drawing. The reason for the date is because you can document something. Maybe you go outside and you draw something outside and you draw it once a week. It's a really good activity. You can't do it now though, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But to watch the leaves fall off the trees and things like that, it would change throughout the month. So the date was important. Sometimes the time is important too. If you get a nice drawing, you can hold it up. We're not gonna be able to really take time to, because we have two more things. But if you have a drawing that you'd like to hold up, that would be great. And you will be able to, and you will be able to share a little bit in a breakout. You can share your drawings there as well.
And if anyone has, there was a question in the chat around, could this be done on a forum or a blog? And so we know that lots of teachers have been using paper science notebooks, but there are also other tools that teachers have discovered during distance learning as a way to make a digital notebook.
Exactly.
Especially with the younger learners, it's probably really still good to have them drawing and writing something, but then sometimes they're using other tools like Flipgrid or Seesaw or other things to share and put that into a digital format so they can see each other's work and comment on each other's work. I love the suggestions here, holding it up to the camera, taking a screenshot. So there are some really good ways to share.
And while you're finishing up your first drawing, can we go to the next slide?
Yes. The one other thing I'll say from this one, in terms of ideas, a lot of teachers use the I know, I wonder, it reminds me of. And you don't necessarily have to ask for each one of those for every drawing, but those are 3 good sentence starter, discussion starter kind of prompts.
And just a couple of examples that have those things on it. The hand drawn, or I don't know, what is it on the right or the left? I don't know, the one that has ball on it. That was my neighbor, and he just started kindergarten like a lot of your students, and he couldn't write much of anything, but he could dictate it to me. And I know that's hard in distance learning, but maybe somebody at the family, or he could tell you, and I don't know. I retired before I had to teach kids with Zoom. I teach adults with Zoom, and it's, I think, a lot different. So I'm sure you have ideas about how to do that. So, but even though the kids couldn't actually write some of the things that's expected in scientific writing, they could tell you about it. And then the other one is just an example from FOSS, because it has everything. It has the date, it has ideas and questions, labels, things like that.
And for those who are learning English as a second language, this is a really nice place because they can draw. It's not language dependent, and then they can communicate, especially at home. Maybe someone can help them write the word in their home language, and then you or a peer can help them discover the English language word for that, and it builds that nice connection between home and school.
Okay, I'm going to move to the next activity, but is there anything anybody wants to say about Move It right now? Okay, we're on to Light It then, and this was sort of more based on the first grade NGS standards. And for this activity, you'll need a source of light. And I have some examples of that too. I have an actual little lamp that would have to be plugged in. It would probably need a lot of supervision. What else do I have? I have a flashlight, which is my favorite thing to have. And actually I got this because I did an experiment 2 years ago on Mystery Science and I bought 15 of them. So I will always have light in my house now and I don't have to worry about that. It's best if you could get your laboratory as dark as possible. My laboratory right now is as dark as possible. I can't turn anything off. And you'll need a light source. I'm going to use my flashlight. Various things to put between your light source and the paper we're going to use as our examination area. So I'm just going to put a white piece of paper in front of me. Again, I can tip this if it makes any difference, but I'm sure you could put a white piece of paper in front of you if you wanted to. Okay, so then I'm going to shine my light source on it. And what do I see? I see the light from the light source. Now the learning part, the first part is to put things between the light source and your observation area. So if I put a piece of paper between my light source and my observation area, I can no longer see the light. The paper at this point blocks it. My neighbor noticed that you could see it on the other side of the paper still, but you can't, it doesn't shine down to the observation place. This was our favorite thing to shine it through. Just a piece of wicker, because it made, will you be able to see them? It made really cool designs. I don't know if you can see it or not. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cool design. So that was a cool thing to have. So that kind of partially blocks it, but not all the way. And another thing, I tried tissue, but I could not figure out, maybe you can figure out how to hold the tissue up and shine the light through it at the same time. So maybe that could be something you work on if that's what you want to do. But this one was good, a kind of a heavy plastic bag, because it absolutely doesn't stop the light at all. So that's kind of giving them a setup for all of that. So that's like the first part of it. And then the second part is about, well, you'll know the words when I show you. If you put something like a little figurine, and I don't know, I have the Eiffel Tower, and you shine the light on the Eiffel Tower. Now, what do you see on the paper? What do you think you're going to see?
It's shadow.
It's a shadow, I know. So shadow and shade. In the lesson plan, it shows, my light's gone. It tells you to kind of front load them with just the vocabulary of shadow and shade in case somebody doesn't know it, or the English or whatever you would need to know. And this was kind of fun with my experimental kid. He loved making shadows, and he made hand shadows, and he really played around with that concept. So that was pretty successful. Okay, I'm sure you did some kind of experiments with your light source. Questions about that? And then again, you're going to have to document your work. We need a record of your explorations and your experiments. So I'm hoping that students can find all different kinds of things to shine the light through. I think that would be good. Okay.
And that gives a really good opportunity for some peer discussion if you're using breakout rooms, or if you're having smaller groups at certain times, where they can each share what they discovered, what they shined a light through, and how they tried to make a shadow or shade, and see all the different varieties. And they can begin to make some notes about what's the same and what's different about the different things that they've tried. And what does that mean? What are they figuring out about light, and how does light work?
These are all sort of introductory experiments in physical science at different grade levels. And you'll see in the lesson plan, the activities don't come out of the NGS book, but they're totally addressing what's expected in that. So, okay, the third one Oh, that was the second part of light it, sorry, that was it, okay. For categorize it, which is sort of second grade, it's really the grown-up, the teacher idea is they're gonna put matter into groups based on observable properties, things you can see. So there's all kinds of words that you could use, and also the color words would come in here. And I think it's important for the teacher to not necessarily give categories when we start the exploration. But right now you could say, do you see anything small in your room or your laboratory? Sorry, I made a mistake. Do you see anything small in your laboratory? Is there a rectangular stuff in your laboratory? Is there anything that might go fast or slow or slope or slide? You would know your students and what kind of vocabulary help they would need. Okay, so you would probably do some setup of, just so they have different ways of dividing things in their head. Or maybe not, maybe you just do the next slide, which is, okay, that's, I'm not sure where we are time-wise, are we okay? Or?
It's 4:30, so we have about 10 more minutes-ish for you to get through these slides before we do our breakout.
All right. Well, for this activity, scientists, you have two choices. You can actually gather up different things from your laboratory. Your laboratory could extend to other rooms in your house too. So you might want to have your students gather things beforehand, just a bunch of objects, a bunch of stuff, matter. And you could actually gather the things around you, or you could just use your observation eyes, your scientific observation eyes to look around your room. Do you find anything that's red in your room? The simple yes or no, I don't know. Okay, she's got the red thing again. Red's a good one for her. Okay, Chandra, yeah. Do you find, again, you could give examples of what you want them to find. All right, now this is the hard scientific part you got to really think about. Decide how you will put different things into groups based on what you can observe about them. What does observe even mean? What's observe mean? Everybody's muted, so I'll tell you. It means use your eyes, yeah? Use your eyes. You're gonna have to make up your own groups because this is a hard job and I can't tell you how to do it. You're gonna have to find your own groups. You don't have to touch the things that you put in groups, but you can. And I don't know, you would decide how many, maybe you would start out with 2 groups or 3 groups, but I was gonna ask you to put 5 different kinds of groups. And an example of how I would maybe I would just do circles. And list or draw the things in the circles. Easy enough, not too hard. You can't see that, but that's okay. So that's your job right now, is to find 5 ways of dividing objects into groups. And then put some objects in those groups. Does that make sense? Is there questions?
And we had some suggestions. Some people have done scavenger hunts to do this with their students. So giving the students a list of properties and they go try to find some materials that are those properties. And then kind of what you're suggesting here, Denise, almost a reverse scavenger hunt where they gather up some materials or have things they can see in the room and then divide them into categories based on the properties. Sounds like that is something that is happening in first grade a lot, judging from the comments.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can't see everything. I can't see the comments right now. So go ahead and draw, document what you're discovering, what you're finding. And make your groups and label them. And if you couldn't spell something or write something in English, you could draw it. Maybe you could draw it in your circle. If that's how you did it, you don't have to do it my way, but I'm just going to make circles and write things in it. Okay, I know in real life right now, kids would probably be saying, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And pretty much the answer is going to be yeah. That if that's how you're categorizing things, if that's how you're making groups, then yeah, you can. So
I will give you one cautionary tale though. I used to run family science evenings for my kids' schools, and my daughter, when she was a preschooler, we would play a version of this sorting game and would constantly vex my husband because her category would inevitably be things I like. Not quite on topic.
okay. All right, yes. Okay, maybe we need to stress the observation part that you can actually see here. Yeah. Although, I mean, I don't know, if one of your categories were things I like, does that make all the other categories things you don't like? Like red things and, I don't know, hard things, soft things. I was thinking of, I have 3 kinds of curtains in my room. So curtains could be one of my categories, and then the colors could be the individual objects in my category.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I can see that one now for some reason. Wood, plastic, metal, glass. I like that.
Nice.
You sound like you know a lot about science.
Awesome.
Okay, so that really kind of is the end of my, if you want to take some time to, yeah, go ahead.
So now you want to have them go back into those breakout rooms, correct? That you were in before, and you want them to, let's see, there are some questions. Let's see. You can have a discussion beforehand on the types of groups to make. So yes, obviously, and I think Denise is giving it really loosely here because this group is TK to 2nd grade. So you're all gonna, have some pretty big differences in how much scaffolding you need. And then someone said, thinking about the modeling, not doing too much modeling, so they just copy the teacher's idea, but enough scaffolding so that they know what they're doing in an organized way, right?
Right. And if you, I mean, you could show pictures of all kinds of things from the internet that have been grouped in different ways. There's all kinds of things there.
But I've seen some really good, and I'll find the link and include it. There are some really good, what doesn't belong kind of slides. But we're trying to take and so that could be a good modeling, a good, scaffolding to introduce the idea, and then to transition it into the physical space that they're in. That can be a good, something they can all do together, and then transition that into the physical space.
And then in the lesson plan, working with real children instead of science teachers, there's a big part of it is explaining how you grouped your objects and what categories you made and why did you do that, and they can write about that and talk about that. Maybe they'd be in breakout rooms for that as well. And so I taught 2nd grade for about 5 years. I think that this would be totally doable for them, but what do I know? I don't know. It's been a long time. So,
so I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute so that I can access the other information that you'll need. So you'll have about 10 minutes. Basically, this is your planning time. This is your time to get back with people in your, for the most part, grade level group. And think about what from what we've talked about today you could take and actually do with your students, because our goal for today, for the end of the day, is that you have something you can take back and do an actual hands-on physical science exploration with your students, and then you're able to reflect on that so that when we come back together in November, you'll be able to share out a little bit, some questions we'll have for you, and then we'll be able to build on that with another activity that'll incorporate some engineering design. So students will have to apply some of what they've learned to an engineering design challenge. Denise, do you want to tell them anything else about what they can do during this planning time? You have a Jamboard. Do you want to explain how you'd like them to use that Jamboard?
Yeah, I can't see it now, but I think I remember. On the one hand, share your share your drawings, what you've got so far with the people in your group, and talk about whatever lesson you're discussing and see, you know, the pros, the cons, how you would change it, how you would adapt it, what you would add to it. And the third thing, I forgot. I can't see the slide. What does the third thing say?
So I'm going to put the Jamboard link in
Okay.
here, and we'll make sure that it works again for everyone. And it's going to be a little bit trickier here because there are pages by grade level. So you need to kind of find one that corresponds with your grade, but it's not going to correspond with the breakout room number. There's, I think, 3 for each grade level, which should work for what we've got here.
I know one of them was just to talk, or just to put on a post-it or somehow share it in the Jamboard if you are using science journals, and what your experience with that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's some prompts on these pages, but you can also use this time, you know, share some ideas, share some things that you got out of this, but also what can you take back? What can you take back and learn? And I will also share, this is the lesson plan. This, I hope, is going to be the right link, but I don't want you to get bogged down trying to read the lesson plan right now, but it may have some points of reference so you can remember some of the things that we talked about, and then we'll share out all of the slides and the lesson plan and everything. So are there any questions? You're going to have about 10 minutes, a good 10 minutes for some planning and discussion. Any questions?
I'd like to add something that I know scheduling for science is a big issue this year. So if you could also share with each other when, how are you making science happen? Is it a morning meeting time? Is it a separate class? Is it integrated in something else? That could be helpful to share too. Thanks.
And if you can just stick that on a post-it, then we would be able to see that after the meeting, and it would help us to know what's going on there. So I'm going to make the breakout rooms open. So everybody able to open that Jamboard?
Yeah, they can't open the lesson plan, but I'll try to do that.
Okay.
Jamboard is good.
I will figure out what's going on with the lesson plan. Might be the share settings, probably. Change it to anyone with the link.
Oh, you did it already? You're so good.
I'm working on it, but we'll see. See if that works. We always think we have these things road tested and field tested, and then somehow it still doesn't quite. All right, that should open the link to.
Oh, I see, it works. Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, I'm going to set up the breakout rooms, and I will give you a warning when we're going to call you back. So go enjoy a chance to talk with your colleagues. Yay! We all made it back again. So exciting. Thank you. So I hope that you found found that time useful to make a plan to actually go and do and teach some science between now and our next session. I have a couple of things to share with you, and then we will come on the end of our time. So I just put a Google survey link. I know we all love surveys, but I promise it's really short. It's only 3 questions. And one of the questions is, if we can give you some material, would you like it? So you have some incentive to take that survey. It's really short. And tell us about what you found useful, what else we can do to make your science teaching great this year and to support you with the distance teaching and learning. I am going to share with you all, you'll get an email after this that will have the link to the slides, the link to that lesson plan, and some other related resources. I'm also putting into the chat pages. I hope you have bookmarked some of the CRS resource pages. that you will hopefully find useful, particularly the resource guide with the resources about, you mentioned the PORTS program. What are other programs, Exploratorium, Cal Academy, what are they all doing for teachers this year in terms of virtual field trips and other types of programs? So I hope you'll find that resource really useful, and we're keeping it up to date. And then the last thing I'll put in the chat here is that's the link that should open the slides for you from today's session. So you should now have the lesson plan and the slides if you want to copy and save those, and then we will send them out again. And our goal from today's session, as we said at the outset, is that you take something and teach it and do some hands-on science with your kids, and come back to the next session in November ready to kind of share out what worked. Were you able to connect that in some way to something else you're doing? Math, language arts, social studies, were you able to connect it? And what can you do now to build on that? So if you can all, I don't know if there are any other questions. Denise and I are available to hang around for a few minutes after the chat, so people are welcome to stay and ask some questions. But if before you log out, if you can take that quick Google survey, that link that I put in the chat, the first one, that'll be awesome. And Denise, thank you so much for your creative ideas and sharing this with us today.
Thank you. This was fun. I hope it's useful for everybody.
So if anybody has any, if you can take the survey, and then if you can, be sure if you joined late that you've entered your name and your school in the chat, because that's what we're using for the attendance for your district stipend. So just be sure you've added that. And then, if anyone has any questions, we're here to continue answering questions. But otherwise, thank you, Tracy and Denise and everyone for being with us today. And we are finishing on time.
I know, that was good.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.